All right, so here we are once again, the upgrade. So we are going to have a guest on in a little bit.
Well, so the guest is my friend Yohannes. So Yohannes is from Pennsylvania. He's a guitar player. He's a physical trainer. He's a somewhat amateur, maybe semi-pro MMA fighter at times, and a general internet troll. He's absolutely hilarious, and I'm happy to have him coming on the show so we can just shoot the shit and see where we end up by the end of this. But I've known him forever, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. So
what's going on, gentlemen?
You looking mad comfortable, boy.
Hey, man, I'm just trying to survive, man. That's all I'm doing. Trying to survive. I'm sure for everybody, it's been a long, it's been a long 45 days, but I've been managing. How are you two doing?
Well, we were just talking about it. It's just, it's sitting around, not really doing much of anything. So, working from home and trying to just not get too stir crazy since everything is limited. I would love to go to a movie right now or go sit in a restaurant or something.
Yeah, I didn't really go to movies before quarantine, man. I just can't justify spending $50 between two people and a bag of popcorn to go see a movie that I may like. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why you do what I do. You sneak the popcorn in and the soda. And when you go to the movies, here's the thing. Go a little early and catch 2 movies, maybe even 3.
Yeah, I used to do that when I was a kid, but man, I'm old as hell. I just want to go home and go to sleep after that.
Yeah, it's a little harder to do now. I used to do that a lot.
I think the last movie that I saw in the theater was American Gangster.
Oh my God, that's a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that was the last time I physically was in a movie theater.
Oh, I should probably do the introduction. So, Yohannes, this is Gary. Gary plays bass for Billy Club's Sandwich. He's a known character around the New York scene, and
I'm going back to use.
Exactly. I've gone back with Gary about 20 years, and he's one of the best dudes I know. So I wanted to just invite you in to talk to him and see.
Yeah, of course. Len, I feel like you're like the mayor, man. I feel like everybody I know you. Like people who I never even know, and your name comes up. I'm like, how the hell you know Len? I feel like you're the mayor of hardcore.
I'm just around. I'm just around.
Look, man, I'm not hating. I'm trying to be like you. I'm trying to have people just talk about me and get in a good light every time I see him.
I hope people are talking about me in a good light because I know that there are some people out there that just don't like me, and I'm okay with that too. It is what it is.
Yeah, man. It's just at that point you gotta just charge them to the game. Like, look, man, all right, man, whatever. Just charge them.
I mean, bottom line is haters are gonna hate no matter what you do. So just do you and don't worry about it. If you mad at me, that's you being mad at me. I'm probably not mad at you.
You know, it's funny you say that. And so one of my clients, she's one of my online clients. She's in like this weird space right now. Wait.
Why don't you tell us what you do?
All right, so I'm a strength and conditioning coach based out of Philadelphia. I work with primarily Gen Pop, but I do have a few combat athletes. I work with mainly MMA fighters, but I do have a couple boxers on my client list. I have a lot of MMA fighters. I have about like 10 or 11 right now that I'm working with, both in person and now online, since the whole everything kind of got pivoted from in person to like the internet now. So yeah, that's what I do. And yeah, that's pretty much my full-time gig. Just a strength conditioning coach, just trying to live the good life.
Are you struggling right now with this?
No. I'm good. Like it was challenging at first because of moving everything to online. Because I had a few online clients before the quarantine. Now it's like exclusively online. So having to manage different programs and having to make sure people get on track, getting back to messages. Before I would just kind of text hey man, what's up? Now people are hitting me up on my portal, and I got to make sure everybody. Just a lot more time in front of the computer than I'm used to.
Did you remember to put your pants on?
Yes, pants stayed on sometimes.
It seems to be a common problem with this quarantine thing because I watch the news and they'll say, "Hey, you have pants on right now?"
Well,
yeah, it's weird. I've been asked that before by some of my clients, like, so you have a shirt on, but what are you wearing underneath? I'm like, dude, why are you even asking that? Like, you can't see that. So why?
Why do you want to know?
Yeah, it's always dudes. Yo, man, so you're wearing pants? And like, why do you care? Like, you can't see anything but my shirt. This is all you can see. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So Gary, I see you got the New Japan shirt on. So
yes.
Did you used to wrestle, or you're just a big fan of wrestling?
No, I'm just a big fan. I try to go to shows when I can. Right. I used to work years ago. I had a friend that had his own promotion, and I used to work security for him. He used to do shows a lot in Jersey and New York. But I've always been a fan since I was a kid.
So what's your opinion about Jim Cornette? So I feel like every time I hear him talk, he's always talking he's always talking shit, man. Like
he hates Vince Russo.
He hates Vince Russo, and who's the other dude? Is it Bruce Pritchard? No, not Bruce Pritchard.
No, God damn it, why am I forgetting his name? Kevin Dunn.
Yeah, Kevin Dunn. Yeah.
Because that's funny because somebody posted on Facebook that Kevin Dunn. It was just revealed that Kevin Dunn had sold like $1 million worth of WWE stock. And I was laughing about that because that's the dude where Cornette went on a rant, called him a Bucky Beaver motherfucker.
Yeah.
That Bucky Beaver motherfucker. Cornette, I find that I have a lot in common with Cornette, but not when it comes to wrestling. That he's just like very old school with the way wrestling is, and he hates anything to do with like newer wrestling. And like, I'm a wrestling fan since I was a kid, but I love a lot of the new stuff that's going on, not WWE.
Yeah. Like I've been watching a lot of AEW. I've been following that. I try to keep up as much as I can with Ring of Honor. But I was listening to his stuff today, and he was talking crazy about Kenny Omega and how
he hates he's all that stuff. Young Bucks, Kenny Omega.
Say he doesn't have his basic. I'm like, dude, the guy, like, you watch Kenny Omega wrestle. I mean, I think he's good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Jim Cornette. I mean, like you said, he's stuck in his Ohio Valley wrestling.
Cornette hates anything that those guys have, like super kicking a 9-year-old or like that match that. Well, Len, I don't know if you ever saw this. Kenny Omega had a match with a girl.
I definitely didn't see it.
Okay. Yeah. The girl was like 8 years old.
Okay.
But he managed to work out because it was in this promotion in Japan where they do all kinds of weird stuff. Like, I think either he or somebody else wrestled a blow-up doll also.
Yeah, I do remember him talking about that. And he talked about the spot where this dude was wrestling. Like the dude grabbed his dick.
Yeah.
The guy started flexing.
I saw that.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, any of those things are things that make Jim Cornette's head go.
Right, because it's not.
And like, I'm not the biggest fan of some of that stuff. Like the dick stuff, I'm like whatever, and like, but I don't hate it.
Right.
And when it comes to those guys, like, I wouldn't say that those guys are worthless. Like, Kenny Omega's talented. The Young Bucks are talented. I enjoy watching them. But Cornette just, like, he can't compute. And I love a lot of things that Cornette says. Like, I love hearing him rant about Vince Russo. I love that he took a copy of the restraining order and was selling signed copies of it on his website. But, tell the truth, I have an autographed somewhere in my closet or something. I haven't put it out. I have an autographed action figure of Jim Cornette that I bought years ago. And I was always a fan, but like when it comes to wrestling, he's so far out there. Like it's still real to him.
Yep.
And like anything close to like
he lives in the kayfabe.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And he wants it all. Like everything with him is that it has to be like realistic and this and that. So, like, anything with, like, these guys doing silly shit is going to be completely over his head. He's just not into it at all.
Is that I appreciate a lot of his honesty about how he feels about the state of wrestling now, but One thing I do like about him is like he has the craziest stories. Like he was telling a story the other day. It might have been an older podcast. He was talking about how he threatened to shoot Brock Lesnar because Brock Lesnar, like, apparently his ex-wife, he like grabbed her ass or something like that. And she told him not to, and he pulled the gun out on him. Said something like, he's like, motherfucker, I won't fight you, but I will shoot you.
He's got so many stories like that are so great. Like he got fired because he slapped one of the wrestlers, like when he was training in Ohio Valley.
Right.
And it was because like, God, Len, I don't know if you remember. You remember when they had that guy, the Boogeyman?
Of course.
Yeah, it was so terrible.
Yeah.
Well, they were doing that in Ohio Valley, and he basically told everybody that they need to act completely shit scared of this guy. And one guy did not, and kind of laughed, and he slapped the shit out of the guy and got fired.
So, my introduction to Jim Cornette, of course, somebody tries to call me on the phone right when we're on this thing, is obviously mid '80s, Midnight Express.
Oh yeah.
NWA with the tennis racket and the whole deal.
Classic.
I was on board with Cornette back then.
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like the act has grown a little bit old, but it's still funny to watch.
Yeah. No, it's funny because, you know, he's just a dude that does not give a fuck. And, like, if he's got a problem with you, he will go up to you and
let you know that he's got that problem.
Because it's happened a few times, you know, and, like, I would love to see him and Vince Russo in a room together. Just to see him go at, because he has said, he's like, if I ever see that guy, I am going after him, and it's going to take 10 people to stop me.
Ridiculous.
And I would love to see it.
I will say this, man. His knowledge of pro wrestling is insane.
Forget it.
Fucking insane, man.
Well, I mean, Len, you and I have talked about this before. Have you watched the Dark Side of the Ring stuff?
The latest one I just watched was about the Brawl for All.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 new ones since then. Okay. But the Brawl for All one was awesome.
Oh, yeah. But when you see Cornette on those, I mean, they show off that museum in his house. He's just got everything. He kept everything. And he told stories on his podcast before, because I used to listen to it all the time, about one of these Southern promotions just had tons of tapes, like the original tapes, and they just were throwing them out. And he literally went through their garbage cans and took them, and he still owns them now.
Good.
Like, he owns that whole library. I forget what promotion it was, but he owns that library because they were literally just throwing the shit out. And it's crazy.
When I was a kid, I was so obsessed with wrestling. I would have my mom buy me the wrestling magazines, and I would cut the guys out and stick them on the wall. And, like, I think about all the stuff that I ruined that I could have had now, like actual memorabilia, like of just like PWI, etc. All those wrestling, all the wrestling magazines. I mean, I had every issue. I would call it from 85 to 90. I had them all, and they were all chopped up by the time like 90 came through, and then my dad just threw them away.
Wow. Because
I moved out of his house into an apartment with my mom.
Yeah.
And when I left my stuff, out it went.
That's crazy.
Dude, that's so funny because I just watched this video of Gary Vee walking around, and he bought a box of like old race cars, and he valued the box. He bought the box for $20, and he ended up selling for like $300.
Wow.
So that could have been you, Len, man.
It could have been me.
You could have came up.
I have a bunch of spots in my life where it's like, yo, I could have been rich.
Oh yeah.
I made the wrong fucking decision. Yeah. And now I'm broke.
Listen, if my parents didn't make me throw out all my old toys, I'd be a rich man right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask
Star Wars stuff alone. Go ahead.
Let me ask both you guys, man. I need some new music, man, but I'm so turned off by the stuff that's out there right now. Like yesterday, I was just rocking out the 10-yard fight, Hardcore Pride. Not that it's a bad album, but I'm not. So what's going on in the state of music right now? Is there something I'm missing?
All right,
bands need to.
I know you like death metal. You need to listen to Ulcerate.
Ulcerate, okay.
Ulcerate.
Yep.
I have to look into this.
New record is just absolutely bananas.
Really?
Yeah. But other than that, I don't. My problem is there's so much that I don't like, and the reasons why I don't like it is because it's like third level derivative. People have ripped off other people that have ripped off the people that came first and did it, and nobody has created anything that even feels remotely authentic. And like, there's a record that came out, I'm not going to say who it is, but the record is out right now and people are jizzing about this record, and it's literally death riffs just taken apart, rejuxtaposed, and dumbed down. And I'm like, I can't listen to this because I'm listening and all I hear is symbolic and individual thought patterns all mixed together, but not good.
Right.
And it's weird because I hate to sound like that old guy that is like, I hate to sound like that old guy that's like, get off my lawn type dude. But even when I think about hip hop, like I can't. I just can't get into anything like Little Yachty or Little Uzi Vert and none of that. I
mean, if you're worried about that, number one, you're in the right company right now. I mean, when it comes to hip hop, like I could count on one hand the number of records that have come out in the past 10 years that I could even listen to. It's just not. It's no good.
Yeah, I think because the other day I was listening to "Shut 'Em Down" with the Onyx, and I was like, I can't see this is my era. I can't listen to any of this stuff. That's like there's a few rappers that I'm really feeling right now, but a lot of it, man, is just like that trap music that I can't get down with.
No, I can't get into it. I can't do it. It's just not good. And you're not even saying anything. Have you heard of a dictionary? Do you have any words to use? Are you planning to mumble the whole fucking time?
That's what kills me, because I've had long discussions about this with people. Like, to me, what passes for hip hop now is
just trash.
It's a completely different type of music than what we know and what we grew up with. Like, it's not even the same type of music. It's like country versus rock. Like, it's not the same, because the fundamentals aren't even there anymore. It's like you hear these guys that can't even freestyle, which was like one of the fundamentals when hip hop started, and now it's just so lost. Like, these young guys, and they're just not saying shit. Like, you listen to dude like Chuck D, and he prided himself on projecting and having what he was saying be heard, and now these other dudes are like nobody gives a shit.
It's weird, like, it's funny you mentioned Chuck D, because like I view Public Enemy as like one of the first like conscious rap groups when you really think about it. Like Fear of a Black Planet, and
it takes a nation of millions.
Yeah, it takes a nation. Yep. And then and I just always thought of Public Enemy now in retrospect as like one of the very first conscious rap groups, which is, I mean, I still love Public Enemy at 37 years old, and I will not ever like love Public Enemy. But I can't get like the stuff now, man. It's like the beats are corny. I can't understand what you're saying.
All right,
and, like,
so part of the problem with the beats these days is because the music industry and how they pay out other acts based on your sampling changed. So everybody will have to pay for their samples in full. So nobody is willing to pony up the money. So everybody's using the same, 500 different sounds that come in an MPC or on a Triton or whatever, however they're building sounds or making things in the computer. Nobody is doing even what Dr. Dre is doing, which is calling in musicians to create the beats in his head in a more organic fashion. So that's why his stuff stands out. When you hear something and you know immediately that Dre produced it, because it's got a level of reality involved in the music making.
Right.
Right, exactly.
But everybody else is literally just pushing buttons, beep bop on their computer, and it all sounds the same. And it's all the same speed. Nobody's changing anything around it. It's just a total nightmare to me.
Yeah, and you're an engineer, man, so you probably have a better ear for it, than most people that I know, considering you're around this stuff all the time. So,
well, all right. So everybody is subsisting on auto-tune or some variant of auto-tune, and I'm like, you can't sing. Stop. You're not Nate Dogg. Stop. And it was fine when T-Pain did it because he was the first person to really take advantage of making his voice squelch. But everybody else doing it doesn't make sense. Stop copying. Do something yourself. At least in my opinion.
See, I never thought about it the way you're talking about it when it comes to the beats and stuff like that, but you're right. And it's funny because if you listen, there's DJs now that are popular or whatever, but you couldn't pick them, DJ Khaled. I couldn't tell you one of his beats if I heard it, but
and another one.
But you listen to Premier,
yep,
or Pete Rock, or some of these other guys. It's you can pick it out, right? Or Muggs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's a whole, it's a whole different thing. Because
they set their own style.
Right.
They got to have your own style. It's to take it back to metal. In the early 90s, you could definitely tell the difference between Suffocation and any other band that came out because nobody else sounded like Suffocation.
Mm-hmm.
And for that matter, Cannibal Corpse sounded nothing like any of the other bands around them.
Right.
The only thing that was close was Deicide.
Mm-hmm.
And even that was still way different.
Yeah.
So what it is that everybody is just looking not just to compete with each other, but to mimic each other because they're like, oh, that one worked. I'm going to do what worked instead of just doing themselves. There's no art left in it. And that's across the board.
Yeah, like what you were saying with bands using death riffs and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff like that that's out now, and it's just okay, let's just, let's just take a Slayer riff and play it at half speed. It's
How many times can I hear a Slayer riff?
Exactly. Exactly.
So let me ask you a question, guys.
All right.
Where do you, if you had a top 5 hip hop artists that you would rank your top 5 as far as being the best of all time, where do you rank Biggie in that category?
He's not my top 5, but he's good. I got no problem with Biggie.
I would say the same thing. I wouldn't put him in my top 5.
And what reason would that be?
I mean, I connect with some of his big songs, but for the amount of music he put out, there are only maybe 4 or 5 songs that I really love. Whereas a guy like Redman, I enjoy his entire catalog. I don't think the man has ever put out a bad song. And the reason why I say that is because he knows how to be gutter. He knows how to be funny. He knows how to be serious. He knows how to get his message across. He's got great beats. And he has great delivery. You can understand almost every single word that comes out his mouth. It's everything I need in hip-hop.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Kind of, it's like Biggie, I don't know. I never connected with Biggie that much because I was anti anything. Once you started mixing in R&B, I just lost interest.
Right.
So Biggie was one of the ones that really started doing that a lot, and it just lost my interest. So a couple of songs, yeah, but I came from Public Enemy and NWA, and to me Ice Cube's first couple of records were just untouchable. And same with Public Enemy, same with the Ghetto Boys, and it just never went. Biggie never reached that level for me, but Tupac didn't either. So
yeah, I mean, I'm admittedly not a big Tupac fan.
Yeah.
Like, I like some stuff, but I don't. I really just don't care.
Yeah, it just never grabbed me. Like neither one. But like I said, I came from NWA and the Ghetto Boys and stuff like that. So I was more into that stuff.
So, Hannes, who's your hip hop dude?
Well, here's the thing, and the reason I asked that because Len, I got in discussion, and about the whole Biggie Smalls thing, I pretty much said what you said, verbatim. Just if you think about Biggie's body of work, Ready to Die and Life After Death. I mean, Ready to Die is without a doubt one of the best hip hop, albums I think ever. But Life After Death was It
Couple songs.
It had a few songs in it. Album had two, but overall the album wasn't that good. So I was talking with a friend of mine the other day. I said Biggie doesn't even crack my top 5, and he freaked out. He said, "What are you talking about? He's one of the best MCs." I'm like,
wait. Let me guess. Was he white?
Yeah, he was.
All right, there we go.
But he was like, "What are you talking about, Biggie?" Blah, blah. Like, dude, you can't put Biggie in front of Rakim. You can't put Biggie in front of Jay-Z. You can't put Biggie, in my opinion, in front of LL Cool J. Like, you can't, just because not only were their body of work, they had longevity, but their overall body of work was just better. In my opinion, I would put LL Cool J in front of Biggie Small. I mean, just for me, I would put Redman in front of Biggie Smalls, like you said.
So let me ask you this: is Eminem his number one rapper?
No, I think his number one rapper was I think he mentioned. I think it might have been Method Man. That's who he liked.
All right.
Which I was like, that's cool. And all.
I wouldn't put him as my number one.
No. Method Man, definitely not.
I like Method Man as flavor in anything. Like, if you throw Method Man in as it's great. But I don't like all his solo stuff.
No. Like, The Cow was probably, to me, other than the stuff he did with, Redman, like Blackout and all that. Like,
but
I don't
Redman carried that for me.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like, when you said Redman, like, he's probably the most underrated MC, I think, ever. No one ever brings up Redman when they talk about.
He's still dropping fire. He put out 3 songs in January, and all 3 of them are hilarious.
Oh yeah, slap the shit out you.
Yeah, slap the shit out you.
So good. That video was awesome.
Now I gotta check that out. I did see. Well, somebody did tell me he put out some new material. I just haven't got around to hearing it yet.
You gotta see the video because the video is hysterical. Oh my god, the video is so funny.
But yeah, somebody like Redman who never gets enough love, unless you. And it's weird to hear, like, Redman's, like, people think he's, like, people still believe he's, like, an underground artist. And, like, Redman's been around since
forever.
The early 90s. Like, he's been doing this a long time, and you're just not hearing about this dude. It's crazy to me.
And he will wipe the floor with 90% of current rappers. Just wipe the floor. Yeah. Off the cuff. Like, off the cuff. Just put him in a room. Done. Game over.
Like, other than Kendrick and maybe J. Cole, I can't really mess with anybody else that's out right now as far as hip-hop.
And that probably falls into where Gary doesn't really love it, because Kendrick and them are all a little too close to R&B and not close enough.
Yeah, I've tried, and it's not bad, but I'm just not that, like, it just doesn't grab me. Like, the only recent thing that
it doesn't
really
grab me either, but
the only recent thing that I could say grab me is Run the Jewels.
Yeah, Run the Jewels killed Mike. Yeah, that was good. Right.
Yeah, Run the Jewels, and there's a dude, and he gets a little R&B sometimes, but there's a dude named Locksmith that
don't know him.
Yeah, he's got some flow on him that's just crazy. Okay. Because I managed to catch him in some random video on Facebook or something, and I was like, whoa, and then got a bunch of his stuff and listened to it, and like I said, he dabbles in the R&B here and there, but the dude has a nice flow to him, and is very different from all this other stuff that's out there right now.
Oh, I forgot to mention Black Thought.
Okay, Black Thought's good.
Yeah, he has some good stuff out there right now too.
So let me ask you this, internet troll: was your friend trolling you when he tried to tell you that Biggie should be in your top?
No, he was 100%.
Or was he being serious? No, did you troll him back?
Yeah, I just said, I said you're trash. Your opinion on hip hop is trash. And then he was like, how can you not put him? Like, dude, you can't put, like, if you look at Tupac has, God knows how much material Tupac had. Apparently he was just in the studio all the time, and there's stuff that he didn't even put out that he was doing. It's like, how do you, a guy like Tupac who was just constantly in the studio, yeah, they died around the same time, and they were around the same time and they both got killed, but you just can't, based off longevity, you can't put Biggie Smalls in that category.
Well, that's my whole argument with everybody saying that Big L is the dude. I'm like, he's got one like actual full record. Like, right. Sure, it's good. I love it. But best of all time, you can't put him in best of all time because he doesn't have.
Yeah, he doesn't have the content. Yeah, and that's a shame. I think if he had the content, he'd talk about it a lot more. But yeah.
and like another point that I brought up to him was relevancy. Like, do you know how hard it is to stay relevant throughout generations? Of, like, think of what Jay-Z did and how hard that must have been for him to go from Reasonable Doubt up until right now.
Oh yeah.
Like that's transcending what, like 3 or 4 generations of hip hop.
See, Jay-Z is not in my top 5 either, but I do respect the man because he's been able to stay on top of the game for so long.
Right. Yeah, and that's not listen, in any kind of music that's not easy. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could take that to hardcore. If we take that to hardcore, I don't love everything that Sick of It All been putting out, but they've been putting out records for 30 years at this point.
Yeah, like, they never stopped.
They never even stopped. Always out there on the road doing stuff, putting records out. You know, the last record that I'm going to say that I absolutely loved was Yours Truly, and that was like 2003.
Yes.
So, you know, they've got a bunch of other stuff that's come out since then, and if they play, I'm down to go see them. I don't mind. I enjoy it. And even if I don't like the new stuff, it doesn't matter. The rest of the stuff that they're going to play, they don't forget the hits.
Oh, no, definitely not. But that's what I mean. It's hard. And listen, take it to rock bands and look at some of these bands that have been around a long time. Like, they managed to reinvent themselves to a point. Shit, look at Kiss. Kiss has been around since the 70s and has reinvented themselves so many times and still managed to stay in that game. And I know a lot of people don't like Kiss. I don't know how you feel about them.
I don't like them.
But
I'm not the Kiss guy.
I'm a fan. I'm not the biggest fan. And musically, you know, they're a pretty basic rock band, but they've gotten through all these years by reinventing themselves. And, you know, especially when they had the makeup off, they had to kind of do things a little differently. And they managed to stay alive all this time. You know, they never dipped like a lot of other bands that we might love dipped over time, because Maiden is my number one of all time.
But they dipped too.
But they dipped because I saw them when they dipped, and it was hard to watch. Because I saw them play the Academy in Manhattan with Blaze Bayley, and like the place was half full, and halfway through the set, it started emptying out, and I was just like, oh man. And they had gone from like arenas down to that place held like 1,500 or something, and they couldn't even fill it. And then I got to tell you, right back up.
For the longest time, I loved Iron Maiden, but I refused to go see them for whatever reason. I didn't see them until I think it was 2017, 16. It was the first time I ever saw them, and I had a fucking amazing time. But I don't think I'll ever spend that money again. Because them tickets are expensive, man.
Yeah, I know. I
like a $10 show.
They are my number one of all time.
Right.
And I will spend the money for them because to me it's worth it. But if you're not a huge fan, it's not worth it.
Right.
But like first time I saw them was in like '88. And
how old were you in '88, Yohannes?
'88, I was
4?
5. I was 5.
5?
Yeah, I came to the United States in 1983, so...
Whoa. I need the Yohannes story. I don't even know when you get... what happened?
So, my family's originally from Ethiopia. I was born in Sudan.
Okay.
My mom and my father, who passed, they're both originally Ethiopian. So my mom came here with me and my older sister in 1983. I was I believe I was 1 then when we got to America. But yeah, I've been here ever since. Ironically enough, I just became a U.S. citizen like last year. I was here.
Nice.
Yeah, I just got my citizenship. My girl's been telling me for years, you got to do that, and I was like, I'll put it off. Then Trump got elected and said, yo, you need to get that goddamn citizenship.
I was gonna say, you managed to kick it into gear when Trump got in, huh?
So for like 30 years, I was just, kind of just hanging out as a permanent resident. Then when Trump got elected, she was like, yo, you need to get that taken care of. And I was like, all right, fine. I finally got it through. It was weird because the process, when I went for my actual interview, the woman who was interviewing me, she was from Honduras, and I couldn't understand a word she was saying. When she was talking to me, I'm like, this is so weird. Like, I have to answer you. I was sitting there the whole time. But it was like, she was kind of like being like kind of a bitch to me because like I kept asking her, like, can you repeat that? I can't understand you. And she was obviously getting like, upset. I wasn't trying to be an asshole because I just literally couldn't understand her. And I was like, this is kind of weird that I have to like, you're like my gateway between me getting my citizenship or me, you're just sending me to the back of the line. So it was fine. The ceremony was whatever. I just had to sit around and Trump was on the screen, tell him how proud he was of us. And I was like, just get my goddamn papers so I can leave. I was...
So, all right, you've been here since '83, you said.
Yeah, I've been in 1983. Yeah.
When did you start playing guitar?
I started playing guitar in 8th grade, and it's funny. So my friend Josh, his brother Bo was like really into Pantera. So he gave me. I know you guys are old enough to remember The Wall. So he gave me Vulgar Display of Power, and it had a wall sticker with you get the lifetime guarantee. So I would dub it, go to the wall,
return that motherfucker.
Return it. Then I got Far Beyond Driven. I would take that back, record that. Then I went and got Gracious and recorded that.
And your original all went out of business.
Yeah. That was definitely part of the reason. But that was like my introduction into like guitar was listening to Dimebag Darrell. And still to this day, Pantera is my favorite band. Dimebag Darrell to me kind of exemplifies that guitar player who can write simplistic but heavy riffs, and his solos were, dude, it was just, it's not like it is now. Like a guy like Yngwie Malmsteen, who I've seen live. I saw him at the Crocodile Rock years ago. Probably the most boring show I've ever been to in my entire life.
Because you can't connect to that bullshit.
Yeah.
It's great technically. Him, Steve Vai, all them dudes. Like, I could listen to a song or two and be perfectly fine. But if you make me sit down and listen to a whole record or take me to a show, I might shoot you.
Yeah,
See, I don't know. With certain guys, I like them. Some of them, because like Malmsteen, I was never really that into because he was just speed for speed. But like some of those guys, I like. Satriani, I'm a big fan. Steve Vai, I'm a really big fan. But they also had more songs sometimes. Like
some.
Malmsteen was just
yeah, that was literally.
But then again, Yohannes, I watch you play guitar sometimes, and all it is I'm like, yo, stop jerking off on the guitar.
Well, that's because I'm working over stuff like technical stuff. But and like Len, imagine like, all right, when I saw you invade the Crocodile Rock, I was a 3-hour show, and for 3 hours that dude did nothing but shred.
Oh, I couldn't take 3 hours of that, dude.
I think I fell asleep twice.
Oh my God.
It was just, I was like from a technical proficiency standpoint, yeah, he is. He is what he is. He's a great player from there. But if I'm gonna listen to a band, I listen to actual songs. Like I said, Dimebag Darrell may not be Yngwie Malmsteen, but you cannot tell me that Yngwie Malmsteen can write a song like Slaughtered, or write a song like Mouth
it's not even in his wheelhouse.
Or write a song like fucking Hostile just because he can't. He's not a songwriter. He just can play guitar really well. And that's why still to this day, Dimebag Darrell is my favorite guitar player, bar none, just because he can write heavy ass riffs on top of play guitar, but do it in a way where it's still musical and you still like, there's a groove to it. Like you're like, all right, I got you, I can get down with this. But a guy like Yngwie, I just can't. Like, it was 3 hours long, man. I drove over to Allentown to see that bullshit, and I was like, this sucks. This sucks.
How long ago was that?
Oh, God, 2007?
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I've seen,
and it still hasn't worn off. You're still mad.
Yeah, I'm still just because. Well, the ticket was $60.
Oh,
because yeah,
$60 for that for Crocodile.
Yeah, it was crazy. Me, my buddy John, and my buddy Keith went, and we're all like, "Dude, this is gonna be such a good time. We get to watch Juve." We all three of us, we drive home like, "Yo, I could have been home like sleeping right now. This is so bad." But I mean, like I said, technically, he's incredible from a musical standpoint. I just can't get down a lot of the stuff just because it's so repetitive and just it gets on my nerves. Like like Len, like you said, it still hits me hard now. Like from 2007. This was 13 years ago.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. 13 years ago, you still had.
Yeah, I asked how long ago it was because I've seen recent video of him, and it's embarrassing because now he sings and plays, and
oh god,
it was like playing in a parking lot somewhere, and it's Absolutely. Like the rest of the band has like one little corner of the stage, and they're obviously just like hired guys that he's paying shit money to. And then he's got like 3/4 of the stage with all his Marshall amps and shit. He's got all this space, and like everybody else is squeezed into the corner.
Right.
And he's singing, and it sounds like total shit. And he's playing like some parking lot at like a state fair or something, and it's so embarrassing. It's like,
Like I resonate with the band more or less like Propane or something like that, or Crowbar, than I do anything Juve Malmsteen does, just because. Yeah. They're heavier, and I think they just have better songs than what he's put out over the lifetime that he's been playing guitar.
So Dimebag is like your spirit animal when it comes to playing guitar. So is that the first thing you learned? Is that it's funny. The first song that I actually remember learning was "Sweet Dreams" by Marilyn Manson when he did the remake of that song.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you haven't been playing guitar that long then. I mean, yes, it's long because that was probably 97 or 98 when that happened. But really, in guitar life, you've been playing for like 20 years.
I mean, when you think of, just to give you kind of idea what I was like during middle school and high school, I didn't really start playing sports until I was in 9th grade when I started playing football and wrestling. I didn't have a girlfriend throughout that entire time. So all I did was...
Better off that way anyway.
Yeah. I would go to whatever sport that I had, practice, come home. My mom was working 2 jobs at that time. She eventually, I don't know how she managed working a 3rd job, but at that time she was only working 2 jobs. Not only, but she was working 2 jobs, and she was going for a 2nd job, so I would just stay home and just play guitar most of the time that she was at work. And then when she got home, I would go to sleep. I would, help her with some things around the house, then go to sleep, go up, go to school, come back, just repeat that over again. I did that for at least like 10 years.
Wow. So why don't you just rattle off a couple of the bands that you've worked with or for, just so I can, I know Set Ablaze and I think Beyond Creation, or what was the name of the band?
Oh, yeah. So Upon Creation was a band that me, my buddy John, Bill, and we've interchanged members throughout the years as far as bass and drums, but we've always been like, kind of the 3 original members in that band. Bill just released an EP that we did 3 years ago called The Standard of Heaviness that he released on like Spotify and iTunes and all that. We recorded that in 2016 or 17 at Bill's house. Well, his parents' house because he lives in LA now. But yeah, those are pretty much the 2 bands that I did. I played a couple shows with Arsis way back when. Like just filling in, but they ended up like touring and all that stuff. I didn't feel like doing that. But that was it wasn't Arsis. It wasn't Arsis. I'm sorry. I forget the band, but it wasn't Arsis. Never mind. They were on the tour with us. Because we did a couple tours with them, like Misery Index, Dehumanized, Mortician. We played shows with Mortician, unfortunately. but I can't think of the band I did. But yeah, it wasn't Arsis. But yeah, it just Set Ablaze and Upon Creation were like my 2 main bands that I had throughout pretty much my early 20s and late 20s. But
when you were in Set Ablaze, who else was in Set Ablaze with you at that time?
So at the time, it was me, Nick, Dotto, George, who were again around they were the focal points. They were sort of the original members. And at the time, I think Joe Kakuta was playing bass for them. Yeah, it was Joe. And I joined the band after Dave left, Sancho.
Okay.
He left, and I jumped in and played guitar.
So that makes us Eskimo brothers from coming into a band, because Bakudo was in Bottom Feeder when I joined.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But that didn't work out, so it is what it is.
Yeah, it didn't work out instead of Blaze either. So it is
what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, we did a couple tours. It was actually, man, so when we did that Arses tour, we played a couple shows with Misery and Deck. We played, like I said, with Dehumanize and Internal Bleeding and Mortician. That tour was probably the best time I ever had in my entire life. Yeah, it sucked not getting showers and for like 3 days on end and driving endlessly throughout the country, but it was literally like the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, just touring in general is fun. The older I get, the worse it is, though.
No, I mean, there's no way I could do that now. If I did that now, no. I'm not sleeping in the back of a van and cramping my back, and no, I'm not doing that. Absolutely.
That was one of the issues in Descent, was that we would go out, and I was like, yo, I'm getting a hotel room. I don't care what y'all are doing. If you want to chip in. If not, sleep wherever, because I'm going in this hotel room. And we were actually out with like a couple bands, and like we rented this hotel, and it was fucking grimy as shit. And I'm like, yo, I'm going next door. I'll pay on this room that we got right now, but I'm going next door and I'm getting a room at the nice place on my own. I'll see y'all later. Here's my portion. I'm out. I'm trying to get a good night's sleep because I'm too old for this shit now.
Yeah.
I want to take a nice shower.
Yeah.
I want to sleep in a bed where I'm not worried about like roaches and bed bugs. I just want like a good night's sleep. I can't sleep in the van. I can't sleep on the floor. I'm too old, too fat, just not doing it.
So
Yeah,
we're crazy. No, go ahead, Gary. Go ahead.
We're like that with Billy Club too, because we're not like, we're all older. We got jobs. Like we're not trying to sleep on floors and shit. Like,
Been there, done that.
We're old and fat, and like we're not like. Yeah, like if I sleep on a floor, like the next day I'm gonna be knocked out for the day. Like my back is gonna be fucked, and I'm just gonna be a mess. So but like I said, we also got jobs, and we plan things out a certain way. So like we're not staying in super high class hotels, but we're staying. We're getting a decent night's sleep in a bed, and like not trying to share beds even,
Yeah, I'm talking about the Hampton Inn, like something at the $100 level, something where I know it's clean. That's it. That's all I need. I don't need like the $300, $400 room. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about a standard room.
Yeah, and we did all that with like sharing beds and somebody sleeping on the floor, this and that. Like that shit's done. Like we're all in our 40s. Like we're done with that. Like we're trying to live comfortably.
Grown ass man, dog. I'm trying to come out.
Exactly. I'm not like a 20-something trying to just get out there. Like, we did that already.
So here's a crazy story. When we were in Dallas, this is when I was instead of Ablaze, we were playing this fest called Texas Murder Fest. We were on the second day. So the first day, DSI played, Dying Fetus, this band called I can't think of it. Into the Moat played, Vehemence. I don't know if you remember them. They played like a bunch of these like really good death metal bands. So the second day we're up because we were playing at 2:00. We get a call, text from the promoter, Nick did, because he's the one that did all the booking, and said the fest got canceled. So not only that we're not getting paid for anything, we have nowhere to play, and so we're like, dude, this sucks, man. So we're like, all right, well, we got to stay the night because we have nowhere to go because we have a show for like 2-3 days. So we played this. So there's this place called the Easy 8. So me and Nick go inside to get a room, and the dude's like, "How many hours do you need?"
We want all 8.
Well, yeah,
all
we're
8.
like hours. Who rents rooms by the hours? I'm like, yo, what is this place? So, as we, we're like, oh, we just need, just for the night. And he's like, all right, yeah, cool. So we're unpacking the van, and this dude literally dressed like we didn't know he was a pimp, but he had this like suit on. He had a fedora. He walked up to me and Nick because we were the ones parking the van. He was like, "Yo, man, so you guys I see you guys are from Philly or Pennsylvania, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, man, just find a place. He's like, yo, y'all need some entertainment. We're like, no, we're not, man. We're good. We're good. We're like, yo, what the fuck is going on? So the guy staying next to us was from Pennsylvania too. And I was like, yo, what's going on with you? He's like, yeah, apparently this place, there's like a bunch of, that's big on prostitution. So that's why you can rent rooms by the hour. So I was like, oh. And the place only had 2 channels. It was Fox News or porn.
Fox News.
So y'all watched porn all night too.
Oh yeah, definitely. So
you were going to do that anyway. So
yeah. And then on top of that, it was a dry town. So me and Nick So me and Nick were driving around all night. Yo, we can't find beer in Dallas. So we had to drive to the next town over, and all they had was Mad Dog. so we bought like 6 or 7, and it was only 75 cents. So we bought like 6 or 7 bottles of Mad Dog.
75 cents. Because
dude, we were so mad. Like, yo, let's just go back to the room and get drunk, whatever. All right, so we don't play the Murder Fest. Nick's like, yo, I can get us on a show at some. It was like this little rinky-dink bar in Dallas. You guys want to play? I was like, yeah, we might as well. We're already here. He's like, the promoter guaranteed us. I think it was like $300, and and when you're in a band that ain't making money, you're like, yo, we need to play the show for $300.
Right. We need this money. We need this gas money.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So we go play the show. Damage Plan's tour manager was there the night we played.
Oh wow! I remember this story now.
Yeah, and we played the show with Arsis, and Arsis left, and the dude was like, "Yo, man, you guys are really good. I'm such and such. I used to manage Pantera, but now I'm managing. I manage Damage Plan." And I was like, "Yo, this is crazy." And this is when Damage Plan was recording their first album. And he was like, "Yeah, man, what are you guys up to for us tonight?" We're like, "Yeah, we're probably gonna go back to our Easy 8 and just watch Hardcore 4 and go to sleep or whatever." And he was like, well, I talked to Dimebag and we want to bring you to this date because him and me had a strip club at that time in Dallas. I forget the name of it. So we're like, seriously? He's like, yeah, don't worry about anything. I'll take care of you. Dude, Dimebag would have came down, but they were still recording the album. He was like, yeah, we can't. Dime and Vinny are recording tracks for the Damage Plan record, so they're not going to be around. But, free reign. If you guys want to lap dance, so everything's on the house. Dude, that took full advantage of that shit. And that was probably because when you first walked in, all it was just like, the gold record for Vulgar Slave Power, the platinum record for, Far Beyond Driven, all these guitars, all this tour memorabilia from Pantera. Oh, wow. And it was just cool knowing that, at one point I was like loosely connected to Dimebag and Vinnie Paul through their tour manager. I went to their strip club. It was just a really cool night.
That's cool.
Yeah. But if you go to Dallas, man, if the Easy 8's still there, do not stay there, man. It was awful.
Yeah, we all have some just stupid, wild tour stories in general.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna get in too many of them right now, but
Gary,
what were you gonna say?
I was saying, do you feel like the kids now resonate with your music, or do you think your music would have been better suited for your early 2000s, late 90s era? Like, do you feel like when you play
Say that one more time because it broke up for a second for me.
I was saying, for your band, do you think like the music you play resonates with the kids that are going to shows now, or would have been better in the early 2000s, late 90s era?
It's kind of crazy because when I first joined the band in 2001, and then we played pretty much almost nonstop for 9 years, and then we stopped, and then we came back in 2016. It's crazy because a lot of the younger hardcore kids actually do their homework and look into a lot of the older bands, which some kinds of music you get that, some kinds you don't. Like when we were talking about hip hop, like those guys don't do the research on the old stuff. Like they don't care about, like if they're listening to like some of this new shit, they're not going out to like find out about Rakim. But like these kids, like we get a lot of kids that come up to us and are like, oh, well, I was too young to see you back then, but like, I'm so glad I got to see you now. And it's crazy to me because, like, you know, these kids are like same age as my own kids, and like, they weren't even born when I started playing in this band. But they still appreciate it. Yeah, they still appreciate it and they love it. And it's crazy to me because, you know, it's like we have managed to last all this time. And, you know, there are some people that were there from back then that are still out now, and there's a lot of new kids. And it's awesome. You know, I'm flattered by it all the time because it's just, we're lucky that we're still able to do this shit, you know, 20 years later almost.
Right.
So my opinion, or 2 cents on that topic, the oh shit moment I had was when you guys played that fest in Florida and the place exploded, and I did not expect you guys to get that reaction at that fest at that time. And I was like, oh, they still have it as a band, but kids actually know who this band is, despite them not being around for a while. Because I think you guys only played like 2 or 3 shows at that point coming back.
Yeah, we had started, because that was in January, we had started playing, our first show back was May the year before.
Right.
Well, you're right, we had only played like a handful of shows. Because honestly, when we first, I mean, you and I talked about this last time, but like when we started playing again, we didn't know if it was just going to be a one-timer or what. And then we were like, okay, you know what, this worked out good. Let's do a couple more and see where it goes. Like, we didn't have any long-term plan. But, you know, that was the first real travel that we did since we came back. And, and it was wild.
There's video, Hannes. There's video. I'll send you a link. Kids were going off, and I was impressed, surprised, and happy for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really that's great.
So you thinking about doing any new bands?
You know, dude, I think I could. It's just a matter. I've always had the issues of finding. Like, I think I've had this conversation with you before, Len. I was like, Len, do you know any drummers? And you're like, nah, bro. I ain't got.
That's the hardest question. That's the $5 million question. Do you have a drummer?
Yeah, and the people that I have jammed with, you know, we will talk on the phone. Like, oh man, so I play this style of music, and they're like, yeah, man, I play this style of drums, and I always think like, okay, maybe we can mix something, and like, it doesn't have to be one particular style, but let's like see what we can come up with, and then it just never amounts to anything, just because there's too much of a conflicting idea. Right. Of what the sound they want is supposed to sound that I want. So I just been finding myself just playing along with, like, I'll go on YouTube and I look up like backing tracks for such and such song. Like yesterday, I was jamming out to Crystal Mountain by Death, and I just found the backing track. So I was just playing Crystal Mountain to a backing track. So that's kind of like what I'm kind of been doing for the past like 2-3 years, just because. And as far as the bands,
in my opinion, best song of all time.
For Crystal Mountain. You know, I'm a big fan of Zero Tolerance. I really like that song. But Crystal Mountain is definitely, I mean, it's a good argument to make. But I do like Zero Tolerance. Actually, Symbolic front to back is just a great album. It's probably my favorite Death record, that and Leprosy. But yeah, man, I just find it hard to find people that, one, want to play heavy music, and two, like, want to really, you know, kind of look in different directions as far as influences, as far as that. So I just been kind of just playing on my own. I did buy a new guitar for my birthday. I bought a Flying V Jackson. Nice. But yeah, I just been finding myself just having more, you know, a better time just playing by myself at this point.
Right.
Not that I'm against like jamming or actually being in a band, but it just, until I find people that can really like kind of vibe with, it's just for now I'm just kind of content to just playing on my own.
Well, let me ask you this: would you want to actually be in a band and like go out and play shows?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if it's something that I can really, you know, kind of vibe with the people and making music, sure, yeah. But I'm not playing, you know, like as far as like touring and stuff. I'm not into that. If you want to play like a show, a weekend or something like that, or I'm not doing weekend dates. Like right now, I have 2 kids, and they're both like little. Like my oldest daughter will be 3 this year.
Yeah.
And my youngest is gonna be 1 in June. I just don't have the time to really dedicate to being in like a band that really is focusing on heavily like playing out. Like,
right.
A show once in a while.
Right. If there was like a bunch of dads, they're like, yeah, man, we kind of feel the same way. They both have families and such. Then I'd be cool with that. But I just feel like most of the people that I've come in contact with that want to play music, they're like, oh yeah, we want to record and make T-shirts, and like they're trying to make a living out of a genre of music that you just can't do it because I've tried it.
Yeah.
Failed. Tried it again. Failed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I asked, because it just seems like nowadays it's so hard to be like, my band is lucky because we were established, like we've been around for a long time, but like right. I couldn't imagine starting a new band right now, just because it seems like leave all this quarantine stuff out of the equation. Like, it's just so hard to get people to leave their house at this point. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of, like, I don't know how it is down where you guys are. Up here in New York, because I'm in the Bronx, all of the rehearsal studios that used to be around, all gone. Most of the music stores that used to be around, all gone. Like, the interest for most people is just not there anymore. Not even just to get people to come to the shows, but to go and play. Like, a lot of people just aren't really doing it anymore.
It's funny you mention that, Gary, because I know 2 other people besides Len that actually own a functioning studio. Like, everyone is doing, it's all digital now, and it's crazy because when I think of like recording, I think about the studio. I think about going in and working with an engineer, finding guitar tones, finding drum track, like just being in a studio working with someone. But now everyone is using Pro Tools, and people don't even know how to use the goddamn thing, but they do it anyway because they just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I even know how to use it. I know how to use it, but I would never call myself a master of it. I know the things I know. But yes, I 100% agree with you. Too many people are on GarageBand and Reaper and Pro Tools and don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Oh, yeah. It's just weird because when I think about recording music, I think about actually being in a studio with someone. And I think also with the age of digital, like social media and such, it's a lot easier to put your music out there. Obviously, coming up, you had to tour. There was no YouTube back then. There was no Facebook. Mm-hmm. The only way you're getting your music out there is
to be out there.
To shows, right? Going to shows, get a table, selling merch. Nowadays, I mean, you can put up a song on YouTube and you can reach a broader audience, which is a good thing. But just for me, like as far as recording goes, I'm more old school. Like, I want to get in the studio with someone and actually record, as opposed to just sitting in my house, plugging into an interface, and just playing through that. I don't know. That's just how I feel about the whole recording thing.
My problem is that bands and kids these days expect far too much for far too little effort.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So they don't practice. They have no concept of how much it costs to run a location, and they expect you to do so much more than what they're even willing to pay for. So let's just call it, you do 5 songs and you're going to track drums. If you're tracking drums for 5 songs, we'll call it 2 hours for setup, but that doesn't include the time that it took me to amass all the equipment, chords, mics, understand where to put it. So then, you're trying to dumb me down, or any other studio for that matter, to some nominal amount of money. Like, I had some kid hit me up just for mixing the other day, and he wanted to pay me like $30 a song. And I'm like,
that's crazy.
I'm not even going to open my computer for that. Yeah. Like, I'm not even going to turn it on. I'm going to just stay upstairs because it's not worth my effort. Like, you need to match, the money needs to match the effort.
You mentioned that, but meanwhile, you're also not counting all the time that it takes for all the extra takes because they show up unprepared. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't practiced.
Oh, well, you can fix that, right?
Yeah, just take that section from there. I'm like, but that's not you're making a fake record, and lots of fake records get made these days, where it's all cut and paste, and you can hear the engineer and not the actual band. Because like bands like Carcass from back in the like we're just talking about bands recording back in the day, they actually put their heart and soul into recording. Like, can you imagine the sound of Sepultura Arise if they had recorded it right now with a perfect engineer? So somebody that was going to take apart the drumming and make it perfectly to a grid, it would sound so sterile and boring and bullshit. Instead of sounding manic, there is no danger in rock music anymore. It's all gone. Everything is just smooth.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, Len, because I was watching this interview with Eric Rutan, and he was talking about for a long time he didn't allow punch-ins where bands he was recording, just because of the fact that he wanted them, because he wanted some accountability with the band. He's like, if you're going to come here unprepared and you're expecting me to just like copy and paste and cut this, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Not only am I going to charge you a higher rate, but guess what? You're going to sit your ass down and you're going to just get it done. Like, I'm not going to do that. I mean, obviously he's changed his mind over time, but he was just saying, like, when I first started, like, bands would just come in and just expect me to just work magic because they were unprepared for the studios. Like, when you come into the studio, just like getting ready for a show, you got to have your shit together. Yeah, I can do some things, but my job is just to kind of, mix and everything like that. Your job is to play. You're the goddamn musician. I'm just an engineer.
All right, so insider story, I spent some time working at Tracks East off and on.
Eric Rachel?
Towards the end of his run of owning it. And we got down to talking about some of the records he's made. And I don't need to detail all the records that went through there, but he was telling me about recording Dillinger Escape Plan's Calculating Infinity. Him and Steve Evetts did it together, I believe. And they did not use a click track. They recorded to tape. And if the drummer messed up, if Chris Penny messed up, he started the song over. Every single song is played straight through. And all the guitars, if they had a punch in, they played from wherever they punched in to the end of the song.
Wow.
So it's not like some piecemeal bullshit. That is a record on records of all records. It's perfect. It's not out of time technically, but it's also not like fake perfection. And it's all on tape. And I actually saw the physical tapes while I was sitting in the studio. So I know he's not bullshitting me. And that's a band where they were clearly on fire and ready to be in the studio. I get these bands in who clearly are not ready to be in the studio. I do have some that have been absolutely ready. And, Queensway is a band that comes in ready. Yeah. Like, the last thing we dropped is literally live drums. There's guitars in the overheads and the drum mics because they wanted to do a closer to live record to get the feel of who they actually are as a band. There are no crazy drum punch-ins. They got home. They decided they didn't like a song, one of the 5 songs. They came back and we re-recorded that whole song, nuts to bolts, because they wanted it to be right and they were ready to do all the work that it takes for it to be right. Now, that record is mixed like it's a live record and it sounds clean but not perfect, and I think it adds personality. And that's what I think is missing from music, is bands have no personality anymore.
So Len, I remember you telling me, I think it was you about Evil Empire and how Rage
they did that record live.
Yeah, they did it live, and Zach did a separate vocal tracks. But thinking about how tight you have to be able to do everything all at once like that as a band.
There are overdubs on the record, but very few. But the principal tracks, drums, bass, and main rhythm guitar is all done live in their practice studio. So here's the deal. They had a practice studio, and then they rented out the practice studio across the hallway, cut a hole in the wall, fed lines through, and recorded. That's it.
That's insane.
And then they sent it to an actual mix engineer to do it. They didn't mix it themselves, but they recorded it. They had their own engineer record it. so they had everything they wanted, and the record shows that it doesn't matter where you record or who records you. If you're being honest about your music and you're putting out the art that you want to put out, it can be unstoppable. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, just to even think about that process is just insane, to think that people actually did that, and look how even Empire came out. I mean, it's just to me, I couldn't fathom doing that, like me personally.
You could do it with the right help. It's all about having the right help and the right access at the time.
Well, that and the preparation. But that goes back to what we were talking about before with some of these bands where they're just not prepared at all. Because I've had that happen, like, and when I used to work with bands, like, there were times that I managed bands or even bands that I was in that, like, we were going to record, like when we did that Gemini Method thing. You know, I'm sitting there drilling, like, they're like, well, we should practice all our songs. I'm like, no, we're going to record 2 songs. That's all we're doing for these next 3 hours. We're doing those 2 songs over and over and over.
Until you absolutely hate them damn songs.
Yeah, and they were confused by that. And I'm like, this is what you need to do.
Yep.
They were totally confused by it. They're like, oh, okay, I guess. And you know, but that's what you need to do.
Granted, my old band Breath of Silence was not the greatest band in the world or anything. But what we did, anytime we had something coming up, we took every single part of each song and drilled the parts. And then once we were comfortable with every single part and everybody was playing things exactly where it was, we started to string the parts together. And then by the end of the practice or the end of the week or whatever, we could play lights out whatever it was we were planning to play. Mm-hmm. Whether you liked it or you didn't like it is beside the point. We were tight at what we did.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. Like, I think, you know, talking about, like, making bands punch and just continue to do the rest of it, like, that should happen more often. I think that's why a lot of these guys now are sloppy and just are like, oh, well, you can fix it later, can't you? Like, no.
No.
You can't. Because I've heard the stories from you, from Glenn, from other people I know that do recording. They're just like, these guys waste so much time, and then they're crying because they're spending the extra money. It's like, well, come prepared.
Yep.
I mean, I learned that so long ago. I learned that such a long time ago, and I don't think they get it now. But that's partly because people are just recording stuff in their house and this and that. Like, they don't understand that, like, time is money. You come in, you're fucking around and having to do 10 takes because you're not properly rehearsed. You know, this is why you're paying all this extra money.
Yep.
So, and it's crazy to think about, like, people, like, think about, like, a guy like Sam Cooke or James Brown or, like, Phil Collins, who had, like, a whole rhythm section, being able to record all that and not during that time there was no, you know, there wasn't auto-tune, there was none of that.
You could punch in, but that's pretty much it. You had to be a musician.
Right, that was pretty much it. But I mean, James Brown, shit, I hear he used to fine dudes when they would mess up in practice. He's like, that's 20 Clarence, and like he would fine you for messing up in practice. Like, like that's how psycho that dude was. But I mean, the proof was in the music, man.
It's like sports. If you practice bad, you play bad.
Exactly.
It's like, so to pivot this a little bit, your MMA training, the guys that you train, or even your boxers or whoever else, if they come in and they don't put the work in when it comes to exercise, nutrition, really understanding footwork, etc., they fight bad.
Oh, yeah.
You got to put the work in no matter what.
Right. No, 100% agree. And it's funny you bring that up because a lot of the people that I do work, especially with the combat athlete guys, like they'll come in and I'll put them through their assessments, I'll check their range of motion and blah, blah, blah. And when they realize that they can't get in certain positions biomechanically because they either have some sort of asymmetry here or they have an imbalance on that, or whatever the case may be, like the shock that I've been getting by this long because, you know, well, that's because, you know, you're fighting scrubs right now. Like, wait till you start competing against people who actually take this shit seriously. Right now, you're Right now, you're an amateur. You're not getting paid. And I think, when you think about fighting, if the guy standing, like, if you had to stand across from Mike Tyson in his prime, and you're one of the, when it comes to fighting, there's few things that really still, like, fighting to me is how I relate to the world. Well, at least I did when I was actively competing, and I got into the coaching world. So for me, I follow just about every single fight sport, from boxing, MMA, kickboxing. You pretty much name it, I can have a conversation with you about it. And when I talk to people and they say, "Oh, I want to fight," I'm like, "Well, one, are you sure?" Because I think a lot of times when they look on TV, it's like this very like this ideal thing where I'm going to fight, I'm going to make money. Fighters don't, like, you're thinking about the 1% of the 1% of athletes in combat sports that actually make money. There's only one Floyd Mayweather, and he's already taken. He's already making whatever, 300 million, 500 million, whatever he's making a fight. Oh, I want to be Conor McGregor. Well, guess what? There's only one Conor McGregor. Like, you're not him. Two, the realities of fighting. When I get people that's, like I said, people that want to fight, I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have to start sparring. You're going to have to start, committing yourself to this process. And a lot of times, man, they kind of like, dude, I didn't know it was like this. I'm like, dude, you have to understand that you got to live and eat and breathe that shit. You got to understand, like, that person across from you, if that's how that person is putting food on the table, and you're taking away their right, or not their right, but you're taking away their opportunity to feed their family, that person, you're just going to be a rude awakening for you. If you're doing this for shit and giggles, then I'm sorry, but there's a lot of other things you can do to make money besides put your life on the line. Because that's the way I was brought up through the sport was, okay, well, if you're going to do this, you have to understand this is a fight. That person can legally put you in a coma, and you can't do anything about it legally.
Nope.
Like that's it.
You could die, motherfucker. You could die.
And it has happened. There were two dudes last year.
That died.
Maxim Dadashev, who was 26, and Todd Day, who was also in his mid-20s, both died in 1 year in boxing. Why? Because boxing, there's a saying, you can't play boxing. You can play baseball, you can play soccer, you can't play boxing. Like, it's a fight. You got to be in it. Right. And that's why I try to relate to a lot of people. Like, look, you're going in the ring and you're physically fighting this person. It's scary. It's anxiety, like, elevating. There are a lot of emotions that go into it. And again, me having the experience and me having been there, done that, I can help people sort of alleviate those sort of stressors that sort of they have to combat to get to an event. But leading up to that event, you have to put yourself in those positions. That way, when the event comes, okay, I've been here before through simulation training, my strength conditioning, blah, blah. I've been to the point where I felt like I was going to pass off my workout. I've been to the point where I was drilling so hard that I almost threw up. But I'm past that. And again, it takes time. But I think the reality is, for a lot of people, once they get in that cage and they take that first punch, they're like, shit, why am I here?
Yeah, because they think it's just going to be fun. Because I've seen it with pro wrestling too, where they think it's just going to be like a fun thing, and then all of a sudden, the first time like something happens and they break their leg or something, all of a sudden, oh, I didn't know it was going to be like this.
I mean, well, yeah, Gary. I mean, pretty sure you've seen it as a pro wrestler. When somebody takes a serious bump, they're like, "Yo, that sucked." And it's like, "Yeah, that's what I do. That's what some people do 300 days a year."
Yeah, and I've seen it with like boxers and stuff like that too. It's like the first time they get their nose broken, they're like, "Oh, I don't know if I could do this." It's like, well, what did you think you were getting into?
Right. That's
you know.
And I can draw from my experience when I work with people to sort of again help sort of quell their anxieties and their sort of apprehensions about getting in the cage or wanting to compete. But the first thing I always ask them is like, why are you doing this? If you're doing this to make money, there are plenty of other ways. You can go back to school, learn to be a nurse.
Yeah, that's funny because
as my boy Eugene says, other sports beckon.
Right. Go play baseball. Go play a sport where you can
go do something else.
Right.
It's funny because I see parallels with music also, where like people think they're going to get into it and they're going to go play the shows and get the girls and this and that, and they'll, you know, then the reality kicks in. It's like, yeah, it ain't like that
at all.
At all.
So let me ask you this, Yohannes. Are you training anybody currently that is, let's call it, on the A level of MMA? So we're talking Bellator, we're talking ONE, we're talking UFC, or somewhere along that line. Because I don't believe that UFC is absolutely like the pinnacle of everything.
Not anymore.
Neither do I. And I, just to kind of pivot off what you're saying is that I think with ONE FC kind of having the Asian market dominated at this point, you're going to see a lot of, I think, down the line, you're going to see a lot of those. You're going to have to see either someone going from here to there or there to, to the States, just because, as far as UFC goes, just because, of course, throughout the years, UFC has been, like they call it the NFL of MMA. But with ONE FC, you're seeing a lot of people going over to ONE FC. You're like, I think this guy could compete in the UFC. Even some people in Bellator. Look, I think Douglas Lima
is a phenomenal fighter.
I think he could be a title contender if he decides to switch over to UFC. Now, again, he's probably making a ton of money in Bellator. He probably has zero interest in going to the UFC. I think Michael Chandler could be a contender in the UFC. I think a lot of people who are in these so-called, subservient.
We've already proved out that, though, because Justin Gaethje was basically, they didn't think he was going to do anything in the UFC. Now, he's won some, he's lost some, but he's still on the at the point where he could get the precipice of a title shot. I mean, he could get a title shot at any point. He's getting one right now. Actually, he's getting an interim title fight against Tony Ferguson.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Just to give a perfect example, when he came from World Series of Fighting, he was already, he was already a champion in one organization coming to another. Now again, it was the competition he was facing, world championship fighter at the caliber of UFC. Probably not. But he still managed to maintain his maintain not only his popularity, but to maintain his winning percentage in the UFC. He's an exciting fighter. People want to see him fight, and I don't think he has the smartest style, but that dude can fight. You know what I'm saying? Just engage.
It's definitely not the smartest style. He's reckless,
right?
But it's entertaining, and that's what people are looking for, is entertainment, and that's the reason why Mousasi ended up getting not kicked out, but leaving the UFC with no real fanfare. He's on, a win streak, but he ends up in Bellator because the UFC is like, look, number one, you win some, lose some. Number two, the fans don't care about you. It's not worth our money to keep you here. So he goes over to Bellator, and he still wins some, lose some. So, were they wrong to let him go? No. But he is somebody that's at Bellator that is UFC caliber fight material. So to say that that some of these other leagues don't have the caliber talent that the UFC has is a farce. Well, but I would say they don't have the depth.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And I think now with the meteoric rise of somebody like Conor McGregor, now people are, because before it was you just fight, right? A guy like GSP who didn't really talk that much shit. He was very respectful. He would go in and whoop your ass. Like GSP never. GSP to me is arguably the greatest welterweight that ever did it. Yeah, he lost 2 fights. He lost to Matt Hughes. Well, no, 3. No, 2. He lost to Matt Hughes and Matt Serra.
Matt Hughes, Matt Serra. That's it.
Technically,
I think he lost to Carlos Condit, and I think he lost to Nick Diaz, but he has wins on the books, and I can't take them away.
And also I think he did lose that Johnny Hendricks fight, but GSP to me, before this age of where you had to talk shit and you're Kobe Covington walking around with a "Make America Great Again," just because you need some sort of fan sort of engagement. You would just go in there and fight. Nowadays, you have dudes like Jacare, for example. I forget, he was on like a 9-fight win streak before he even got a sniff at a contender, a contention spot. And to me, nowadays, like for me, if you're a fan of something, you need to know the history. Right? You have to know the history of your. That's my opinion. Like I'm a fan. Like it's strength training, MMA, right? I can talk about both of those things. I can talk your ear off all day about both. And to me, the fans now, the casual fans that are coming on right now, I've had conversations with people that didn't even know who Chuck Liddell was, or Rich Franklin, or Mark Coleman, or like Maurice Smith.
And those people don't feed them.
No, it's not that I don't. It's not even that. Like, how can you claim to be a fan of something and you don't even know the history of that something? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, let me ask you a question though. Do you think? Because I was a fan of the UFC from like the second UFC ever.
Right.
Do you think that UFC is going in the wrong direction by basically kind of going like almost pro wrestling, where it's like if you talk shit, you talk yourself into a fight?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, look, if you could talk shit and back it up, again, Conor can run his mouth all day, but Conor, at the end of the day, that dude can fight. And he's bringing in a ton of fans to the sport. All Dana White cares about is making money.
Right.
He doesn't give a shit if, like, he just wants his paycheck at the end of the night. But to answer your
part
question,
of that issue is that we got to deal with Endeavor owning the UFC right now.
Yeah. Right. WME, right?
Yeah. Like you can't have a publicly traded company losing money. So all they have to do is make money. So if that means make the most fantastical fights that they can make that will bring in fanatics that will be willing to pay for the fights, then do it. If it means make a deal with ESPN to guarantee that your money at the end of the year is right no matter what you do it, because the bottom line is you need to pay your investors.
I'm not faulting Dana White for doing that to make money. He's a promoter. Promoters, I mean, you look at promoters in boxing, you know, them dudes, like a guy like Don King, he's got a noted history of ripping off people. Like, I'm surprised that dude is still alive, to be honest with you, but I'm
surprised that Mike Tyson ain't knock him the fuck out.
Right? It's just crazy, but promoters, their only job is to make money. Like, they're going to do what they have to do to make money. So what Dana White, like, I wouldn't want Dana White's job. As much money as that guy makes, I think he's worth a couple $100 million at the very least. But I would not want his job. I would not want to be in it.
His job is herding cats.
Yeah. And with a job like that, you can't, like, to be a promoter at that level, man, you kind of have to you got to do what's best for the business. And the best for business is, you know, may not be like to answer your question, Gary, about people who talk themselves in a title shot. Let's take Chael Sonnen. Like, I love Chael Sonnen. I don't know if you guys listen to his podcast. It's really
all
good.
The time.
Yeah.
He makes a lot of good points, but there's no way Chael Sonnen, every title shot that guy's had, he lost.
Yeah, exactly.
And the reason he got those title shots against Anderson Silva, he kind of anchored in this idea, this WWE cutting promos and things like that to get big fights, and it worked. But again, talking in pro wrestling, the outcome's already predetermined. In a fight, you got to go in there and you got to back up what you say.
The only time that he won a fight that he should have won and that he should be a champion for was when he beat crazy ass Paulo Filho in WEC right before WEC folded. And literally Paulo Filho was legitimately on another planet during that fight.
Yeah, that dude, man. I don't know if you ever caught some of his fights when he fought in Pride, but that dude, I was like, Jesus.
I saw a few of them. Pride was a whole other world.
Yeah, that was a Wild West, man. Like, and just
anything goes.
Like, I just rewatched the other day when Bob Sapp fought Big Nog. He weighed by 150 pounds. I'm like, what is that?
Oh my god!
And then he gave a pile driver and broke it. Like, I think he ended up either chipping a disc in his neck because he gave him literally a pile driver. I was like, dude, this is insane. Like, but the Japanese, that's what they're into, man.
I used to love that shit too. But it was because those dudes also weren't getting drug tested or anything. But that's why so many of those guys, when they came over here, couldn't do a damn thing.
Right.
Because suddenly they were off the juice. Yeah, they were off the juice and they're just getting hammered.
Vitor.
I remember listening to Ensign Inoue on Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about how his prior contracts, they literally stated, "We will not test you for steroids." Like in big bold letters.
I believe it.
Do what you want.
I totally believe that.
But man, it's just seeing both now in the days of MMA contemporarily is you see like the talent level now is just insane. Like the kids are younger, they're just out there like they're dogs right here right now, man. And just and pick a division, shit. It's just it's crazy to see. Like the changing of the guard as far as the talent within the last 5 years as opposed to 10 years ago. It's just, to me, it's
so. Did you watch the Adesanya fight versus Bobby Knuckles? Bobby Knuckles.
Oh, yeah. I did watch it. Robert Whittaker, right? Yeah, I did see that.
I don't want to talk about the OL fight because that wasn't a real fight. That was bullshit. Like that was not even a fight. That was two dudes who were scared of each other. Dancing around. I don't have time for that. But the Bobby Knuckles fight, I feel like watching him fight reminds me of watching Keith Jardine fight. Not Adesanya, but Robert Whittaker. In that they're both got this weird herky jerky thing going on, and Whittaker tried to employ the tactics of Kelvin Gastelum. And that's not his wheelhouse. Like, what the fuck was he doing in that goddamn fight?
Yeah, I mean, when you really go back and you look at what, Whittaker was doing, first of all, we have to talk about Israel Adesanya for a second.
Is he that good, or is everybody is just falling off?
So he used to fight this organization called Rumble on the Rock.
Where
in New Zealand. It was just kickboxing. It wasn't MMA then.
Yep.
And back when I was following him, and I'm not going to be that guy, I knew all along because I didn't know all along. I just knew him from the time I've been following him as a kickboxer because that's the only sport he competed in, and just seeing his sort of IQ as far as the way he uses range, the way he's able to switch up stances pretty effortlessly and be able to attack from both southpaw and orthodox, the way he's able to put again just very really crisp combinations. Like I saw this one fight from Roman the Rock where he threw a low kick and then went right into a spinning heel kick, and it was like, wow, it was just so smooth. There was no interruption in his movement. There was no interruption in his balance. It was just, I was like, wow, this dude's really considered really good. Fast forward to now when he's competing MMA, and the Robert Whittaker fight, I thought Whittaker did two things wrong. First, he didn't use any type of, in my opinion, there was no versatility in the way he fought. Same thing with Yoel. Yoel is a silver medalist.
What is he doing?
Right.
Take the man down.
And to me, the only times I've seen Yoel fight like that is when he's trying to pace himself because he's afraid he's going to get tired. Dude, and this is another thing that kind of makes me mad as a coach now. I'll give the amateur fighters a little bit of a break because actually I'll give fighters who are not fighting full-time a break because you have to go to work and then make time to train. Right? You got to worry about paying your bills, then make it to the gym.
Yeah, of course.
There are some things that happen in those transitions between work and the gym where maybe you didn't get enough sleep. Maybe you had a really tough day at work. Maybe you're a carpenter and you just got hammered at work. Then you have to go to the gym and train for another 3 hours. I'll give those guys a pass just because they have to sort of this work-life balance. It's really hard to maintain. That is, I experienced it when I was fighting. But for a guy, if you're a full-time fighter, that's what you do. That's what you do for work. There is no excuse why you cannot properly train. if you're worried about getting tired during a fight, then you
didn't train.
Right, you need to reconsider who you hire as coaches, and you need to reconsider what you're doing. Because if you're full-time, this is what you do. I'm talking about just full-time fighters. This is what you do all day, every day. And that's the one thing, man, I'm afraid I might get tired. So, I mean, that to me is not really, I mean, that kind of makes me upset. Not upset, it's more annoying. Because a guy he doesn't have to worry about working a full-time job. He doesn't have to worry about, his job is fighting. So if your job is fighting, why don't you have a proper strength and conditioning coach to where you can fight, 5-minute rounds,
five hard rounds,
five really hard rounds, and use your wrestling attributes that you have because you're a fucking silver medalist, an Olympic silver medalist. That you should be, because looking on paper, I had Yoel winning that fight. I'm like, Yoel's going to mix in his wrestling. He did to some degree, but by that time the fight was too far gone. It was too gone.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Israel fought a smart fight. It wasn't entertaining by any stretch.
But you can't run into power like that.
Right. And that's another thing. That's why I credit Israel, is because when you think about that first punch Yoel cracked him with, I think anybody in their right mind wouldn't be like, yo, man, I'm gonna go toe to toe.
I'm just gonna keep going. Nah. Unless you're Paulo Costa.
Yeah,
unless you're Paulo Costa.
Right, unless you're a psycho like that, who's like, yo, fuck, I'm just going to go hell for leather with this guy. Because if Yoel punched me like that, dude, I'm like, you know what? This shit ain't worth it. I'm not getting paid enough. I'm good, man. Y'all can have this belt. But again, this is what you have. And this is why I go back when I talked about earlier, the realities of competing. You might have a Yoel Romero standing across you in the cage, and just by looking at him physically, you're like, Jesus Christ, this dude's like, he's 42.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how the fuck? But that's what I'm saying. Like,
that's not what I look like.
Right, exactly, right. and you have to weigh out variables. Like I said, Israel fought a great fight, but it wasn't entertaining. But tactically, I thought he did a good job of using his range, using his low kicks to slow down Yoel as far as him being able to shoot or change levels. To me, it was tactical, and I can appreciate that about the fight. Was it entertaining? No, obviously not. But I can appreciate Israel, as far as the way he was able to sort of manage Yoel and manage that sort of explosive power that Yoel brings when he fights.
Okay, I got a secondary question for you, and I'm going to call this segment Dead in the Water. Colby Covington, dead in the water?
No. Listen, man, Colby Covington, yeah, he's a dork. Yeah, he attached himself to the whole Donald Trump sort of make America great again gimmick. But at the end of the day, it's funny because I just had this conversation with one of my fighters. His name, shout out to Gordon Wigginton. He's making his pro debut. Hopefully this year. He was actually one of the first amateur champions that I've coached all the way through. He was an Art of War 185-pound champion. He won last year. Then after that, he turned pro. So, shout out to him. But people forget, Colby Covington's a dork. Yeah, he's annoying, but he can fucking fight. Like that fight against Usman.
But that's my thing.
Right.
That's my thing. Now let me make my point to why I think he's dead in the water. He put on 5 hard rounds, and 5 hard rounds like that take a lot out of your soul, and he did not get the win. So that automatically depletes him in some way going forward. He will never be the fighter that he once was. So is he dead in the water, or will we see a resurgence?
I don't think he is at all. One, I think people hate his guts and they want to see him get his ass whooped. It's kind of like Floyd. People tune in to watch Floyd lose. They don't tune in because they like Floyd or they support him or appreciate his complete and utter dominance in the sport of boxing. No, they want to see Floyd lose because Floyd's flashing, his Lamborghinis and his voices and his talking to I never got the idea of talking to a stack of money like a fucking telephone. That's corny as shit. But I think people want to see Colby Covington lose. They want to see him get his ass whooped. And I think now, since he's sort of, again, aligned himself with this whole gimmick about, even if you don't know this, like, the UFC was ready to cut him while he was on a winning streak because he wasn't bringing excitement, right? So the reason he started doing that
But the numbers don't say that they put butts in the seat for that fight either, though.
Right. Yeah. No. You're definitely right about that. But the fight itself, if you just take away that aspect of it, and just talk about the actual fight. The fight was amazing between him and Usman.
It was a good fight.
Yeah.
And it came down to it came down to wanted it more in that last round.
Right. And if Usman didn't stop Kobe, I don't know who wins that fight. If it goes to a decision,
it could have gone either way.
Like the one thing I do respect about Kobe is that dude comes to fight, and from people who I know who train at American Top Team, where he's at down in Florida, in Southern Florida, like Kobe when he's in the practice room, he's he goes hard, and I can appreciate that. So like even a guy like Conor McGregor, yeah, he comes in, he talks about, you know, Khabib's wife wearing a towel on her head. And also, I mean,
oh god,
and don't get me wrong, it's funny as shit. Like, but Conor can fight.
But here's the thing, though. Do you think, because this is something that's kind of lost me as a fan, like, you know, you're talking about Colby and you're talking about Conor, like, don't you think that all this gimmick stuff kind of dilutes it a little bit?
No, I mean,
I'm more about the fights than anything else.
Right, and I can appreciate that because you're speaking from a standpoint as like a purist, someone who's just like, all right, man, this shit is corny. Just go in there and fight and see who the best fighter is. But unfortunately, in America, controversy sells.
Yeah.
And as long as people are glued to the TV, I mean, think about the Brawl for All. Think about how corny it was, but people watched it. Why? Because it was entertaining.
I wasn't even really watching wrestling at that time, and I watched all them fights when they happened. Because I wanted to see it.
Right. But for me, as someone like you, Gary, who's more on the pure side, I mean, it doesn't do anything for me. But if you can hype a fight up, if you can, you know, talk a little shit. I mean, they've been doing it in boxing for, you know, for how long? I don't know how many boxing matches that I both worked the corner and I've witnessed myself on TV where the weigh-in turned into a fight. It's like, dude, you guys are fighting in like tomorrow. Why are you fighting right now? But it's just a way of selling the fight, and you know, and if you look at ONE FC as opposed to the UFC, it's just the culture different. Like, I mean, everybody here has watched Pride. When you watch a Pride fight, the fans they don't say shit until something happens. They're like, oh. But it's just a different culture in the way people view combat.
That's the way pro wrestling used to be in Japan, and then it changed. But to me, and it's funny because maybe, you know, going back to like what we were talking about with Cornette, maybe for me, I am kind of a purist, but I like, if I want to watch pro wrestling, I'll watch pro wrestling, and if I want to watch MMA, I'll watch MMA. And to me, UFC has kind of blended it in a way that I don't really like, because it's too much about, like, you're talking about Colby with the Trump gimmick and like Conor with his gimmick, and it's like it's too much about booking. Like, I feel like they're booking the fights, it's not athletic anymore, so it really is kind of becoming pro wrestling. And I enjoyed MMA because it wasn't pro wrestling,
right?
And that's something that, you know, I mean, in the end, yeah, it may sell the fights, but overall the numbers are down.
No, that's been like, it's funny. No, go ahead.
And the numbers are down with pro wrestling also, you know, with WWE being the way they are. But to me, like, they're not. I don't think they're ever going to get back to that peak where they were at one point with the Ultimate Fighter and all that stuff, because they had the mainstream exposure. But I don't know, like, the gimmick stuff may get some fans, but I feel like it loses fans too.
Yeah, I just think from that standpoint, if you're thinking, again, from that purist mentality, like, I don't care who can talk the bullshit. Yeah, it's funny. Some of it does make me laugh. But at the end of the day, like, unlike pro wrestling, it's not work. Like you can't manipulate who wins and who loses. When you get into that cage,
you could, but that's how you end up, you know. that's how you end up out of business. Kimbo Slice.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, even with Kimbo, I mean, people knew him from the internet, from fighting, breaking people's eye sockets open, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I used to watch them fights all the time.
Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, dude. I actually
I'll still watch
like last week when he fought that dude in that backyard and broke his eye open. But I mean, when you think about a professional fighter like Kimbo, he was relevant. I mean, he was a street dude. Like, all the respect for him for actually, attempting to go inside the ring. But when you watch that fight between him and Dada 5000, I wasn't expecting to see high level. Right.
Two people were literally dying in the ring. That's basically what you're watching.
Like, I'm pretty sure Dada 5000, I think he went to cardiac arrest after that fight.
He did.
Because
he had renal failure.
Yeah.
All right, let me just put it this way. If somebody yelled down the stairs, "Yo, there's a fight out here," I'm going outside to watch it. So whether you're talking about them doing this WWE bullshit for the UFC to hype these fights, or you're talking about two like really high level fighters who aren't going to talk shit and they're just going to get in there and actually fight, I'm tuning in for both. But I care more about the sport than I do of the hype bullshit. The hype bullshit is just it's just like extra noise because I was going to watch it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
and that's
like,
the thing Dana White always brings up is like, well, if I'm playing basketball and the fight breaks out, where do you think people are going to go gravitate towards? Like, obviously the fight.
I'm watching the fight.
Right.
Yeah, you watch a fight. Like, think about when what was it, the Mouse at the Palace? I remember where I was sitting. I remember what I was doing when that happened. I didn't like. I was iffy about the game. I was like, this game's competitive, but I don't give a shit. But when Ben Wallace and Meta World Peace started swinging, I was like, oh shit.
Yo, and that was a wild fight.
Yeah, and they start beating up fans and shit, somebody threw beer on them. That's what I was like, this is crazy. But I mean, that's what happens when people fight. It's like it's a whole different sort of it's just a whole different your attention just automatically just goes right to the fight.
Final pivot. Food fights. Anytime food fights happen and I see them on the internet, I send them to Gary. But I'm gonna start sending them to you too.
So many McDonald's fights.
Yo, I love watching random people who can't fight.
I do too, but at the same time, it's like when I see people get there's this one video I saw with this kid. He was young with his bouncer's face. It was something that the guy threw him out. And the kid
is this the one where he body slammed him and the dude basically died on the spot?
Oh yeah,
he looked dead.
I'm like, all right. Well, first off, I don't hold that bouncer liable because if somebody's yelling in my face like that, I would probably do the same thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
But now that dude's probably going to file a lawsuit. The guy's probably going to go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so from that standpoint, I'm like, oh, this sucks. But I have no problem seeing like a complete douchebag getting knocked unconscious. Like I won't. Like that stuff doesn't bother me at all. But like when I think about it, because when I work at I still work at Union Transfer even though we're not open right now. Just having these meetings about the way we can handle people, the way we can't handle people, and the way we have to sort of like grab people. It's like, if you're an asshole, you deserve to get beat up. Like I don't have pity for people. Like if you're causing trouble and you're specifically trying to get a rise out of people, then yeah, if you get punched in the mouth, then I mean, that's one of life's lessons, So when I watch these videos, these guys getting beat up in the street, I feel bad for the people doing the beating because usually it's them going to jail. Or
they're the ones that are going to get in trouble.
Right. But
especially with everybody with video cameraing everything.
Video cameraing. Like most of the videos I sang that video with that guy getting kicked in the face when he was in the chair. Did I say that video?
Which one is that? No,
I don't think I saw that either.
It might have been in Jamaica or something, but these two dudes were arguing. The one guy sitting down, the other guy standing up, and dude just throws a kick right to this guy's face and knocks him
done.
Oh, yeah, I gotta see that.
Yeah, I have to send it to you, man. But yeah, it was like, Jesus.
Oh my god.
But yeah, stuff like that definitely does just entertain. But like, and another thing, when you I think a lot of people don't know. Like, I'm like the last fight I was in. This is a funny story. I'll tell. So the last fist fight I got into. Well, it wasn't even a fight because I got jumped. It was totally 100% my fault. So I was 26 at the time. This was 11 years ago. So that was the last altercation I've been outside the ring. I had just broken up with my ex. I was in a bad way. So me and my friend and his fiance went to the Barbary for some emo dance night. Where he's like, "Yo, man, just get out the house and let's go over here." I'm like, "All right, man, whatever." So I start drinking immediately. So I'm on stage. I'm wasted at this point. And I just remember having this Corona bottle, and there was this group of dudes in front of me. Just kind of, they weren't bothering anybody. They didn't do anything to initiate any type of sort of aggressiveness on my end. They were just having fun. But I was in such a bad way. I was like, fuck this. These dudes are dorks. So I shook the Corona bottle up and I started spraying it all over. And the one guy grabbed my pants. I remember he grabbed my pants and I kicked him. And then from behind me, someone punches me in like the back of the neck. So I fall off the stage. And mind you, I'm already drunk at this point. So I fall on the ground and I start getting kicked immediately by like 7-8 people just start kicking me. So the bouncer grabs me, throws me out. I was like, "Dude, I saw what you did. You're an asshole." And I'm like, "Yeah, come outside, pussies." No, I would have got my ass whooped. So the guy threw me out, told me to go home. I was like, "All right." So I took my walk of shame, and got a burrito. So my friend and his fiance, they were texting like, "Where are you? We're going to take you home." And he's like, "Dude, what were you doing? Like, why did you do that?" I was like, "I don't know." It was like, "Dude, that was such a dick move." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." I had nothing.
I know why you did it. Why did I do it? You wanted to feel alive in that moment. That was the only thing that you could really imagine doing, and it was important for you to do at that moment.
I mean, looking back, you're probably right. And I don't know why. It was just a stupid thing for me to do. That was like the one time I was like, dude, I deserved every punch, every kick. Like that entire night was just ruined because of me, and I was like, all right, this is fucking dumb. Why am I acting like this? But yeah, it's just I think people, when they think about street fights, they don't understand, like, a street fight is not punching and kicking. Like, if someone pulls out a bottle, breaks it over your head, or a pool cue or something like that, stuff that I've seen done. I mean, we've all been to shows, and I've seen people get fucked up with chairs.
Oh yeah. Listen, I used to work as a bouncer too, so I used to see all kinds of shit.
So shit, like, when people think about it, they don't understand, like, the actual violence that can happen in an actual fight. Like, it's crazy. I remember, Len, I don't know if you, Gary, maybe if you were at the show, Len, I don't know if you were there at that time, when Earth Crisis played the Truck, and that skinhead dude,
it got worked.
Yeah,
blood everywhere.
Were you there when? I remember somebody beat him with a broomstick.
No names.
No, I'm not naming anybody. I just remember someone beat him with a broomstick, and
yep.
Just like, I'm just like, dude, what is
I definitely heard about that.
Yeah.
So, there's a story very similar to that at Club Chrome back in the day, and a Nazi showed up to a Strife show, and it did not work out in his favor. We'll just say that.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of stories like that, because there was Hellfest in Jersey also.
Oh,
were you talking about one of the Rexplex?
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't there for that one, but I saw videos of a lot of shit that went down that day.
Well, Bad Luck starts playing, and a guy gets his shirt ripped, and it turns out he's got a swastika tattoo.
Oh, God.
So he just got beaten out the door, and then he's laying on the ground, and the cops show up, and the cop just looks down, black guy. He just looks down and is like, "Oh, well, what happened here?"
But the worst part is that dude came back the next day and caught a second ass whipping.
That dude came back?
He came back the next day.
God. He didn't know anything else.
A group of people, unnamed, I saw them beat him up the balcony, down the not balcony, but the bleachers. Yeah. Up the bleachers, down the bleachers. I know this motherfucker ended up in a garbage can and tossed outside in the garbage can. So, you want to fuck around and find out, you could find out. It wasn't me. but there are people out there that will handle your ass.
Yeah.
And that's what and that's like I don't get that. Like, you know, you do what you want to do with your life, but if you have that type of sort of philosophy that you kind of live your life by, and you show up to a hardcore show like you know, like that, and it's like
show up in public anywhere,
like
anywhere, you're liable to get dealt with.
Oh yeah, especially anywhere, but especially around New York, New Jersey, like.
Right.
No.
Like, yeah, people aren't going to tolerate that bullshit. Like it's crazy. So, like, I saw there was a show. It was a long time ago. It was at the Troc. It was a Shutdown. Cro-Mags headline, and I forget who played before Shutdown, but like there was these two skinhead dudes there.
Oh well, I know I was there. I was there. There was the first Cro-Mags show back.
Yeah, Harley was.
Yeah, Harley was
singing for him.
Yeah.
And I got a
All Out War played that show.
Yeah, it was All Out War. That's who it was. And these two skinhead dudes were there, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, they got their asses whooped. It's like, why are you?
I mean,
like, I get it. You made.
I mean, they didn't get their asses whooped. I mean, they got turned inside out. Seed opened that show. Seed from California, SEED.
Okay, right.
And I can't remember the other band. Then it was Shutdown, and then it was All Out War.
All War, right.
And then it was Cro-Mags.
And I just remember seeing these dudes. I'm like, why? Like, this is crazy. Like, these dudes are here. But funny story about Cro-Mags.
Sworn in Vengeance. Sworn
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Played that show.
Okay.
So I was at a party with a friend of mine. This was like last summer, and this chick had an Age of Quarrel shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just talking, and then, you know, I see her shirt. I was like, oh man, it's cool, man. That's cool, like the Cro-Mags. I was like, yeah, I was a bigger fan of Harley than John Joseph, and she's like, Harley who? I was like, Harley Flanagan. He's like, oh, he was in Cro-Mags? I was like, yeah, you know that album. Yeah, it was like, and my friend who I went with, he was like, you know, I told him the story. He's like, dude, yeah, I got nothing. And it's like, yeah.
So, yeah. All right, yo, thank you for being on our show. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, man.
Nah, dude, I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys.
You got anything to plug for yourself?
Yeah, man. If people are interested in any type of strength training or strength conditioning, they can find me. My Instagram is havokstrong at _365. Same thing with Facebook, havokstrong _365. I have some online stuff going on right now. I have a bunch of programs that I'm selling. So people you know, even though we're going through this quarantine bullshit, you know, you can still get strong at home. Just contact me. I'm easy to find, Yohannes Habtu, or again through Instagram, my havokstrong _365. So yeah, that's about it.
Cool.
I'm Len from Landmine Studios and various other bands along the way. If you need to catch me, you know how to find me on the internet. And my man,
I am Gary Muttley from Billy Club Sandwich. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. You can find the band both of those places also, and YouTube, and just about anywhere else. And this has been The Upgrade. So we will see you again soon.